Maya Rodriguez stepped off the transport shuttle onto what had to be the most aggressively peaceful planet in the galaxy. Harmony Prime looked like someone had taken a vacation brochure and decided to build an entire world around it. Perfect blue skies, gentle breezes that smelled like vanilla and sunshine, and not a single thing that could remotely be considered dangerous within a 50-mile radius. Even the grass looked like it had been individually manicured by tiny alien perfectionists. "Welcome to the Galactic Defense Academy," Cadet Rodriguez announced Commander Veltar, a 7-foot-tall purple stick insect with the personality of a hall monitor who'd finally gotten some real authority. His antennae twitched nervously as he consulted his datapad for the 15th time since Maya had arrived. "I trust your journey from the barbaric Outer Rim was survivable." Maya bit back her first 3 responses, all of which would have gotten her kicked out before she even saw her bunk. Just peachy, Commander. Nothing like a good old-fashioned insult to make a girl feel welcome. Dr. Clicks, a small blue alien who looked like a worried jellyfish wearing a lab coat, practically vibrated with anxiety as he approached. "Oh dear, oh my, she's even larger than the projections indicated." "Commander, are we absolutely certain the containment protocols are sufficient? The biometric readings from her species are frankly terrifying." "Containment protocols?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "Doc, I'm here to train as a soldier, not audition for a zoo exhibit." "Yes, well." Veltar cleared his throat with a sound like grinding metal. "The Academy has been specifically designed for civilized species. You'll notice our advanced safety features." He gestured proudly at what looked like the galaxy's most expensive daycare center. The floors were covered in some kind of cushioning material that probably cost more than Maya's hometown's annual budget. Environmental controls hummed quietly, maintaining perfect temperature and humidity. Even the doorways had rounded corners. Maya walked over to what she assumed was a training dummy and gave it a gentle tap. It immediately began flashing warning lights and emitting concerned beeping sounds. "Seriously? This thing has a panic button." Dr. Clicks nearly fainted. "Please don't touch the equipment without proper supervision. The liability waivers alone would require 17 different forms of approval." "Right," Maya said slowly. "So just to be clear, you've built a military academy that's afraid of its own training equipment. That's not concerning at all." "The Galactic Defense Academy has maintained a perfect safety record for over 3 centuries, Veltar sniffed. "0 training casualties, 0 equipment failures, 0 incidents requiring medical intervention beyond basic nutritional supplements. 0 actual training too, I'm guessing," Maya muttered. Then louder, "So what exactly do you do here? Strongly worded letter writing? Aggressive negotiations? Maybe some really intense committee meetings?" "We prepare the finest minds in the galaxy for the challenges of peacekeeping through careful study, strategic planning, and collaborative exercises designed to build consensus," Veltar recited like he was reading from a pamphlet. Maya nodded thoughtfully. "And when someone actually shoots at you?" The silence that followed was so profound that Maya could hear the environmental systems adjusting the humidity by 0.01%. Dr. Clicks made a small whimpering sound. "Well," she said cheerfully, "this should be fun. Hey Doc, want to hear about the time I got chased by a pack of razor wolves through a blizzard on Titan Colony? Spoiler alert, I made it back in time for dinner and only lost 2 toes to frostbite." Dr. Clicks promptly excused himself to update his medical emergency protocols. Maya was pretty sure she heard him muttering something about hazard pay and early retirement. Commander Veltar's antennae were now twitching so violently she was worried he might take flight. "Perhaps," he said carefully, "we should begin with a comprehensive orientation program, and for everyone's safety." Maya grinned. Oh, this was definitely going to be interesting. The species compatibility assessment turned out to be exactly as ridiculous as Maya had expected. She sat in what looked like a medical chair designed by aliens who had heard about human anatomy secondhand and decided to play it extremely safe. The thing had more padding than a medieval knight's armor and enough sensors to monitor a small space station. "Now then, Doctor," Clicks said. his tentacles trembling as he consulted a datapad thicker than most novels. According to your species file, humans require a complex series of preparatory procedures before any physical examination. Something about fight or flight responses and unpredictable muscular reactions. Maya blinked. You want to give me a heads up before you take my blood pressure? Sure, Doc. Knock yourself out. Excellent. See, Commander, proper communication prevents tragic misunderstandings. Dr. Clicks bustled around, preparing what appeared to be the galaxy's gentlest medical equipment. The blood pressure cuff looked like it was made of flower petals, and the stethoscope probably cost more than a luxury speeder. 3 other cadets had been dragged in to observe this historic first contact with human medicine. A small golden alien who looked like an enthusiastic tennis ball with eyes bounced excitedly in the corner. Oh, this is fascinating. A real live Deathworlder. Do you really eat poison for fun? Can you survive in vacuum? Is it true your species conquered your entire planet through organized violence? Kid, we call it cooking, spacesuits, and civilization, but sure, let's go with your version. Makes us sound way more metal. Zorks, a massive grey alien built like a living boulder, simply nodded approvingly. Strength is respected among my people. Your species' reputation precedes you. The 3rd cadet, a nervous purple thing that looked like it belonged in a flower garden, just made worried chittering sounds and kept backing toward the door. Now then, Dr. Clicks announced, I'll be administering a routine vaccination. Please remain as still as possible to avoid any incidents. Maya held out her arm. Fire away, Doc. What happened next could charitably be called a learning experience. Dr. Clicks, focused intently on his careful injection technique, accidentally brushed against Maya's elbow with his cold, slimy tentacle. Maya's reflexes, honed by 22 years of life on a planet where everything was actively trying to kill you, kicked in automatically. She grabbed his wrist. Gently by human standards. Dr. Clicks's wrist sensor immediately began screaming like a fire alarm having an existential crisis. Crushing force detected. Structural integrity compromised. A medical emergency in progress. Oh, for crying out loud, Maya said. But the damage was done. Dr. Clicks was staring at his wrist sensor in horror, while alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Shutdown protocols activated, announced the facility computer in a voice that managed to sound both soothing and deeply concerned. All personnel please remain calm while emergency procedures are implemented. The blast doors began sliding shut. Emergency lights bathed everything in pulsing red. Somewhere in the distance, Maya could hear the whir of what sounded like very expensive medical equipment being rushed into position. I barely touched him, Maya protested as Commander Veltar burst through the door, flanked by what appeared to be the Academy's entire security force. 6 aliens in cushioned armor carrying what looked like high-tech pool noodles. Dr. Clicks report. Veltar barked. She grabbed me, Dr. Clicks whispered, staring at Maya like she'd just casually mentioned eating babies for breakfast. The force readings, Commander, her gentle grip registered as 20 times normal crushing strength. If she'd actually tried to hurt me. I was trying to steady myself because you startled me with your cold, slimy tentacle, Maya said, her frustration mounting. This is insane. You're treating me like I'm some kind of monster when all I did was have normal human reflexes. Pip was practically vibrating with excitement. Did you see that? She moved so fast I couldn't track it. And she didn't even look like she was trying. Humans are amazing. Humans are dangerous. Veltar corrected, his antennae now in full panic mode. Dr. Clicks, implement Protocol 7. Full biometric monitoring, restricted movement zones, and immediate consultation with xenobiology specialists. Protocol 7? Maya stood up, which caused 3 security guards to raise their pool noodles defensively. What's Protocol 7? Zorks rumbled approvingly. They fear your strength. This is good. Weak creatures should fear the strong. I don't want them to fear me. I want them to treat me like a normal person. You're not normal, Dr. Click said, his voice barely above a whisper. Your species survived on a Class-12 Deathworld. Your living weapons wrapped in skin and cheerful conversation. Maya looked around at the panicked faces, the flashing lights, the security team treating her like she might explode at any moment. This was going to be a very long training program. The obstacle course looked like it had been designed by someone who'd heard about physical training from their grandmother's knitting circle. Soft, rounded obstacles in cheerful pastel colors dotted a course covered in the same cushioning material as everything else in this place. Maya was pretty sure she'd seen more challenging playground equipment at elementary schools. Now then, Cadet Rodriguez. Commander Veltar announced through the facility's speakers, "You'll notice our state-of-the-art safety monitoring system. Automated sensors will track your vital signs, movement patterns, and stress levels. Should any reading exceed acceptable parameters, corrective measures will be automatically implemented." Maya stood at the starting line, surrounded by a dozen alien cadets who were watching her like she was about to sprout wings and start breathing fire. Corrective measures? Non-lethal intervention protocols. Dr. Clix's voice crackled through the intercom. Mild sedatives, neural dampeners, that sort of thing. All perfectly harmless and designed for your own protection. Right, Maya said slowly. And what exactly are these acceptable parameters based on? A pause. Standard galactic physiological norms, of course. Maya looked at Pip, who was bouncing excitedly beside her. The little golden alien probably weighed about as much as Maya's left leg. Standard galactic norms. Got it. This should be interesting. Begin when ready, Cadet. Veltar announced. Remember? Slow and steady. Safety first, always. Maya took a deep breath and started jogging. Not running, not sprinting, just a light jog that back home would have been considered a warm-up pace. She'd made it maybe 10 steps when the first alarm started blaring. Aggressive movement detected. Initiating safety protocols. A dart hit her in the shoulder before she even realized what was happening. Maya stumbled slightly, more from surprise than any actual effect, and looked down at the tiny projectile. Seriously? You shot me for jogging? The watching aliens were in complete chaos. Pip was jumping up and down, shouting something about human invincibility. The purple flower alien had fainted. Zorx was nodding approvingly and taking notes. The subject appears unaffected by standard sedative protocols. Dr. Clix's voice came through the speakers, now pitched about 3 octaves higher than normal, increasing dosage and adding neural dampening agents. Maya felt a slight drowsiness wash over her, like she'd had 1 beer too many at dinner. Oh, come on! This is ridiculous. She continued through the course, easily vaulting over barriers that came up to her waist and weaving between obstacles that seemed designed for creatures with the coordination of drunk penguins. She's still moving. The sedatives aren't working. Dr. Clix was full on panicking now. Impossible. Commander Veltar's voice cut through the chaos. Deploy Protocol 15. Maximum safe dosage. All available countermeasures. The Commander. That dosage would render a Centaurian unconscious for 3 days. Do it. It. The second dart hit Maya square in the back. This one actually made her pause for a moment as a wave of dizziness hit her. She steadied herself against a phone barrier and blinked a few times. Okay, that one I felt. You guys really need to work on your hospitality. By now, the alien observers were in complete meltdown. Maya could see Commander Veltar gesticulating wildly in the observation booth, while Dr. Clix appeared to be hyperventilating into a paper bag. The other cadets were pressed against the windows like they were watching the galaxy's most dangerous zoo exhibit. Maya was getting genuinely annoyed now. The sedatives were making her feel sluggish and slightly nauseous, plus she had a headache building behind her eyes. All she'd wanted to do was run through their little playground course and maybe get some actual training for once. Instead, she was being treated like a rampaging monster for having the audacity to move at normal human speed. You know what? She called out to the observation booth. You want to see what human aggression actually looks like? Fine. Let me show you the difference between a light jog and someone who's actually trying. She picked up the pace. Not to her full speed, not even close, but fast enough to complete the course in what she estimated was about 30 seconds. She flowed over, under and around obstacles like they were standing still, which from her perspective, they basically were. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Dr. Clix's voice came through the speakers, barely a whisper. She completed the course, while heavily sedated, in 32 seconds. The previous record was 18 minutes. Maya stood at the finish line, hands on her hips, glaring up at the observation booth. Happy now? Or do you want to shoot me with something else? That's when Commander Veltar made his biggest mistake of the day. His authority complex, already bruised by having his perfect safety systems proved inadequate, kicked into overdrive. Deploy emergency protocols, he commanded, full-spectrum intervention. Show this Deathworlder that the Galactic Defense Academy is not to be trifled with. Maya saw the third dart coming and didn't even try to avoid it. At this point, she was curious to see just how much alien medicine it would take to actually slow her down. The answer, as it turned out, was quite a lot. Maya hit the ground like a sack of potatoes and lay there for exactly 37 seconds. She knew it was 37 seconds because she counted them off while waiting for the cocktail of alien sedatives, neural dampeners, and what felt suspiciously like horse tranquilizers to finish bouncing around her system like confused ping-pong balls. When she opened her eyes, she had a headache that felt like a small construction crew had set up shop behind her eyeballs, and she was seriously, genuinely annoyed. Not angry, not violent, just thoroughly fed up with being treated like either a fragile flower or a nuclear weapon. Status report. Commander Veltar's voice echoed through the facility. Is the subject contained? She appears to be, resting, Dr. Clix replied uncertainly, though her vital signs are still remarkably stable. Commander, we just administered enough sedatives to stop a charging Raxian battle beast, and her heart rate barely changed. Maya sat up slowly, partly because her head was pounding and partly because she didn't want to cause another panic attack. Okay, she announced to the silent facility. You've shot me 3 times, locked me up like a zoo animal, and treated me like a ticking time bomb, all because I had the audacity to be born human. I think it's time we had a little chat about what human aggression actually looks like. The observation booth erupted in panicked chatter. Maya could hear at least 4 different aliens talking at once, probably arguing about whether to evacuate the facility or call in orbital bombardment. Now, Maya continued, standing up and stretching, you keep talking about how dangerous I am, how I'm going to destroy everything, how I'm some kind of unstoppable force of nature. You want to see what that actually looks like. She walked over to the nearest obstacle, a padded barrier that was supposed to be climbed over. Instead, she grabbed it with both hands and lifted it out of the way entirely. Not threw it, not smashed it, just picked it up and moved it aside like it was a piece of furniture. Your obstacle course is backwards, she announced conversationally. You've got barriers where you should have open space and open space where you should have challenges. Also, this padding is ridiculous. How is anyone supposed to build actual physical conditioning on surfaces softer than a marshmallow? The aliens in the observation booth had gone completely silent. Maya could practically hear their worldviews cracking. She moved to the next section, where a series of low hurdles were arranged in a pattern that made no tactical or training sense whatsoever. These are in completely the wrong order. You've got people jumping randomly instead of building muscle memory for actual combat situations. She began rearranging them, stacking some, moving others, creating what actually looked like a military training course instead of an abstract art installation. What is she doing? Dr. Clix's voice was barely a whisper. I'm fixing your training course, Maya called out helpfully. Seriously, who designed this thing? Someone who'd never actually seen combat. These obstacles don't prepare you for anything except maybe a career in interpretive dance. By now, other cadets had begun to gather, drawn by the commotion. Pip was pressed against the window, eyes wide with fascination. Zorgs had actually left the observation area and was standing at the edge of the course, watching Maya work with obvious approval. Maya continued her rampage, which consisted of systematically improving every piece of equipment she touched. Broken sensors were jerry-rigged back into functionality. Misaligned obstacle configurations were corrected. Supply closets were reorganized with ruthless efficiency that would have made a logistics sergeant weep with joy. "She's not destroying anything," one of the observing cadets whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. She's making it better." "The efficiency improvements alone are staggering," another voice added. "She's reorganized the entire supply system in less than an hour. Do you realize how much time this will save during equipment checks?" Maya, meanwhile, had moved on to the Academy's crown jewel, an elaborate tactical simulation chamber that looked impressive but was apparently programmed by someone who thought warfare was conducted by committee vote. She spent 15 minutes reprogramming the scenarios to include actual tactical challenges instead of collaborative problem-solving exercises. "There," she announced, stepping back and wiping her hands on her uniform. "Now you've got a training facility that might actually train somebody. The course is properly arranged, the equipment actually works, and the simulations won't put people to sleep. You're welcome." The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. Maya looked up at the observation booth, where she could see alien faces pressed against the windows, staring at her like she'd just performed some kind of miracle. Finally, Commander Veltar's voice came through the speakers, uncharacteristically quiet. You improved everything." "I fixed the obvious problems, yeah," Maya shrugged. "Honestly, it wasn't that hard. Most of this stuff just needed someone to apply a little common sense and elbow grease. Though I've got to ask, how exactly were you planning to defend the galaxy with equipment that's afraid of its own shadow?" Dr. Clix's voice came through next, sounding stunned. "Your vital signs throughout this entire process, your stress levels actually decreased. The physical activity improved your health markers across the board. You weren't having a violent episode at all. You were helping." Maya looked around at the transformed training facility, then up at the observation booth full of aliens who were finally beginning to understand that their preconceptions might have been just a tiny bit off base. "Yeah," she said simply. "That's what humans do." Commander Veltar's perfect world was crumbling, and he wasn't handling it well. For 3 centuries, the Galactic Defense Academy had operated on the principle that proper protocol and safety procedures could solve any problem. Rules, regulations, and careful planning were the foundation of civilized society. Chaos was the enemy, unpredictability was dangerous, and everything had its proper place. Then a single human had walked into his facility and casually dismantled everything he thought he knew about military training. "Dr. Clix," he said slowly, staring down at the transformed training area, "run those diagnostics again." "I've run them 6 times, Commander," Dr. Clix replied, his voice still shaky with disbelief. "The efficiency improvements are real. Equipment response time is up 37%. Training scenarios now accurately reflect documented combat situations. The obstacle course configuration follows actual military doctrine instead of abstract safety principles. She accomplished more meaningful progress in 2 hours than our design committee managed in 20 years. Down on the training floor, Maya sat on a bench she'd constructed from spare materials, looking more tired than anything else. The sedatives were finally starting to wear off, but she still had that headache, and she was clearly exhausted from her rampage. Pitt bounced over to her, practically vibrating with excitement. "Maya, that was incredible. How did you know exactly what needed to be fixed? Are all humans engineers? Is this some kind of Deathworlder superpower?" Maya rubbed her temples. "Kid, I'm not an engineer. I just grew up somewhere that if something was broken, you fixed it, because nobody else was going to do it for you. You see something that doesn't work right, you make it work right. It's not magic, it's just basic problem solving." Zorx approached more slowly, his massive frame moving with surprising grace. "Your species has practical wisdom," he rumbled approvingly. "My people respect strength, but we also honor those who build better than they found. You have done both today." The purple flower alien, who had regained consciousness, chittered nervously from a safe distance. "But the protocols, the safety procedures, how do we maintain proper order if individuals just change things?" Maya looked up at the observation booth, where Commander Veltar was clearly having some kind of philosophical crisis. "You want to know the really funny part? Everything I did follows proper military doctrine. Earth military doctrine, sure, but the principles are universal. Train for real situations. Maintain your equipment, adapt to circumstances. The only thing wrong with this place was that you'd forgotten what you were supposed to be training for. Dr. Clix's voice came through the speakers. Maya, may I ask you something? Those stories you mentioned earlier, about survival situations on your world, you said they weren't bragging. They were just normal. What did you mean? Maya sighed. Look, Earth is what you call a Class-12 Deathworld, right? That's not because we're particularly tough or violent. It's because everything on our planet is actively trying to kill us. The weather, the wildlife, the geology, even some of the plants. We don't survive because we're super soldiers or because we're inherently aggressive. We survive because we adapt, we problem solve, and we help each other. She gestured around the improved training facility. This is just Tuesday for a human. We see problems, we fix them. We find inefficiencies, we streamline them. We encounter challenges, we overcome them. Not because we're special, but because that's what you have to do to survive long enough to have kids and teach them how to survive too. Up in the observation booth, Commander Veltar finally found his voice. You're saying that your entire species is composed of natural problem solvers and improvisational engineers? More or less, Maya shrugged. Though we prefer to think of ourselves as stubborn optimists with a tendency to tinker with things until they work properly. Pip was practically glowing with excitement. This explains everything. Humans don't seem dangerous because they're violent. They seem dangerous because they're competent. You don't conquer through force, you conquer through efficiency. We don't conquer anything, Maya protested. We just try to make things work better than we found them. Zorx nodded slowly. Your species does not seek dominance. You seek improvement. This is why others fear you, not because you destroy, but because you transform. Dr. Clix appeared at the entrance to the training area, moving cautiously but no longer treating Maya like she might explode at any moment. I owe you an apology, he said quietly. I spent so much time preparing for the dangerous Deathworlder that I never considered you might just be helpful. Maya stood up, still moving carefully to avoid startling anyone. Doc, you were trying to keep everyone safe based on the information you had. I can't fault you for that. But maybe next time, try talking to the scary alien before you assume they're going to eat everybody. Commander Veltar's voice came through the speakers one final time, and for the first time since Maya had arrived, he actually sounded uncertain. Cadet Rodriguez, would you be willing to consult on some additional facility improvements? It appears our training protocols may need updating. Maya grinned, and for the first time since she'd arrived, it wasn't sarcastic. Commander, I thought you'd never ask. 3 months later, the Galactic Defense Academy looked like a completely different place. Gone were the cushioned floors and rounded corners, replaced by training facilities that actually trained people for real-world conditions. The obstacle courses challenged cadets instead of coddling them. The equipment worked reliably because it was maintained properly. The tactical simulations prepared students for actual combat situations instead of theoretical discussions about conflict resolution. Maya had officially been appointed as special consultant for practical training applications, which was a fancy way of saying the human who fixes things that don't work right. She'd also become something of a celebrity among the cadet corps, though not for the reasons anyone had expected. Maya. Pip bounced over, now wearing the more practical uniform Maya had helped design. The new endurance course is amazing. I actually broke a sweat. A real sweat from actual physical exertion. That's the idea, kid, Maya grinned. You can't build real conditioning in a pillow fort. Zorx approached at his more measured pace, but Maya had learned to read the subtle signs of approval in his body language. The big alien had become her most reliable assistant in the heavier construction projects. The structural improvements to Building 7 are complete, he reported. The new layout increases traffic flow efficiency by 43%. Nice work. Did you remember to reinforce the support beams like I showed you? Of course. Sloppy construction dishonors the builder. Maya had learned that Zorx's people had a lot in common with humans when it came to practical engineering. They just approached it from different cultural angles. The Commander Veltar appeared, looking harried but considerably more relaxed than he had 3 months ago. His rigid adherence to protocol had evolved into something more flexible, though Maya suspected he'd never be completely comfortable with improvisation. "Cadet Rodriguez, we have a situation." "What kind of situation, Commander?" 3 more academies have requested consultation visits. Apparently, word has spread about our human efficiency improvements throughout the sector. The Admiralty is considering implementing similar programs galaxy-wide. Maya raised an eyebrow. "And this is a problem because—" "It's not a problem," Veltar said quickly. "It's just, I never imagined that military efficiency could be improved by ignoring proper bureaucratic channels and simply fixing things that needed fixing." "Revolutionary concept, I know." Dr. Klix bustled over, carrying a datapad and looking far more confident than he had when Maya first arrived. "Maya, I finished the preliminary report on human physiological adaptations for galactic military service. The data is fascinating. Your species' adaptability quotient is off the charts, but not in the ways we expected. Let me guess, we're not actually unstoppable killing machines. Quite the opposite. You're unstoppable improvement machines. Every situation you encounter, you automatically begin optimizing for better outcomes. It's not conscious aggression, it's unconscious efficiency enhancement." Maya laughed. "Doc, you make us sound like some kind of organic optimization software." "In a sense, you are. Your entire evolutionary history involved constant adaptation to changing and dangerous conditions. You've essentially evolved into a species of natural systems analysts." The purple flower alien, who Maya had learned was named Whisper, approached hesitantly. Over the past few months, Whisper had gradually overcome their fear of Maya and had become quite helpful with the more delicate technical work. "Maya, I wanted to thank you again for the communication system improvements. Our efficiency reports are now 30% more accurate." "No problem, Whisper. Good data makes everything else easier." As Maya looked around at the bustling, functional training facility, she reflected on how much had changed. The aliens were no longer afraid of her, they were working with her. The Academy was actually training competent defenders instead of nervous committee members, and she'd finally found her place in the galactic community, not as a dangerous outsider, but as someone who helped make things work better. "You know," she said to the assembled group, "when I first got here, I thought you all were hopelessly overprotective and bureaucratic. Turns out you just needed someone to show you that efficiency and safety aren't mutually exclusive." Pitt bounced excitedly. "And we thought you were a terrifying Deathworlder who would destroy everything. Turns out you're a helpful problem solver who improves everything." Zorks nodded approvingly. "Misconceptions lead to conflict. Understanding leads to cooperation." The Commander Veltar cleared his throat. "Yes, well, speaking of cooperation, I've received authorization to offer you a permanent position as Director of Practical Operations. The pay is excellent. The benefits include full galactic healthcare. And you'd essentially be responsible for making sure the entire Academy continues to function efficiently." Maya grinned. "Commander, are you offering me a job doing exactly what I'd been doing anyway, except with official recognition and better pay?" "Essentially, yes. And I get to keep fixing things that don't work right. That would be your primary responsibility." Maya looked around at her alien colleagues, who had become genuine friends over the past few months. She thought about the other academies that wanted consultation, the possibility of improving military efficiency across the entire galaxy, and the chance to continue doing what humans did best, making things work better than they found them. "Well," she said cheerfully, "I guess that beats getting shot with tranquilizer darts for jogging. When do I start?" "Oh." As it turned out, the galaxy didn't need to fear humans after all. They just needed to get out of the way and let them help. Which, when you thought about it, was probably the most human solution to the problem anyone could have asked for.